Hello, welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. I'm Joanne and my podcast is for all the creative women out there who have a small business of their very own or who want to start one doing something that they absolutely love and that they're good at. Something that you were born to do. Well, I'm here every Wednesday to talk all about the things that we encounter as female entrepreneurs and as women. So even if you don't have a small business, you still might find some of my episodes, the things I talk about, entertaining. There's everything in between running a small business, having kids, juggling life and all its challenges. I cover it all. So you might enjoy the episodes regardless of whether or not you have a business. But hopefully I give you some helpful information, some tips, and also allay some of your fears and provide solutions to some of the things that maybe you're worrying about as the owner of a small business. Because let's face it can be pretty scary, can't it? And it's really nice to know that you're not alone on the journey because we don't have that luxury of colleagues sat at a desk next to us, people we can share a brew with or tell them how our weekend was, moan about the kids or the husband, etc. You know what I mean. No, we fly solo. In fact, one of the lovely ladies who listens to my podcast every week, she messaged me the other day to say how much she enjoyed them and that she felt like I was in the same room as her, having a chat and a brew. I mean, how nice is that? It made my day, and it's exactly how I want my podcast to feel. So that made me so happy. Thank you, Julie, if you are listening. It really did mean a lot to get that message. So we're talking today about copycats. Yes, we are onto you. I think with us being creatives, it's something that we all strive for as businesswomen is to be original. We all want our work or our services to be the ones that stand out from the crowd, where people see something that we've designed or whatever and they go, yeah, that's it. I recognise that style. There's no other like it. It's definitely, say, Vintage Tree. That's my handmade stationery business. I want people to know that that's my work and my style and to recognise it. And actually, it's almost critical to creatives to have that original style because it's what defines the industry that we work in. I mean, when you look at it, you look it up in the dictionary, it's the actual definition of the word creative. It means relating to or involving the use of the imagination or original ideas to create something. I mean, it's all there, isn't it? It's actually the definition of what we do. Our actual success depends on how original we can be. So I thought today we could talk about what we do when someone comes along, it could be intentionally, it could be unintentionally, and threatens that originality by imitating our work. So we're going to be looking at the challenge of staying original in whatever it is that you offer or you do, because it's hard sometimes with pressures like conforming to current trends and what's popular. Like we see stuff on social media all the time and we feel like we have to jump on the bandwagon and do what everybody else is. And sometimes you don't even know if your work is similar to someone else's. You could be doing it, you could have come up with an idea that's absolutely fabulous, you love it, but you don't know if someone else has done it and it looks the same or it's very, very similar. And that's completely unintentional. And it can be worrying and it can play on our minds. So I'm going to be giving you some tips on what you can do to deal with copycats, how to spot if your work or idea has been stolen, and ways that you can approach any cases of what we're calling idea theft. I'm also going to be chatting about the ways you can make sure that you maintain your originality and things you can actually do to exercise your creative muscles and your mind so that you're never short of ideas and you never feel the need to go snooping around your competitors' social media accounts, screenshotting their bestsellers. We've all done it, haven't we? And of course, I'm going to be giving you some practical tips to help you monitor these copycats. I've had a lot of experience dealing with them, so I've got a few techniques under my belt that I want to share with you should it ever happen to you, or maybe it is happening to you at the moment. So let's go, let's do this. Okay, copycats, they are everywhere, aren't they? They're silently preying on us creatives, like stealthily hiding in the shadows and observing our every move. We unwillingly go about our everyday business. We're happily designing some amazing products or putting together some services that have been born from our imaginations. And that is the key word, that it's ours. They are the product of our brains, of our fingertips, of our hearts. And they are the result of, no doubt, many sleepless nights, lots of trial and error, and perhaps endless market research and conversations with people that we know, our friends, our poor family who have to listen to us go on and on about ideas, our existing customers. We ask them, what do you think? Do you like it? What don't you like about it? Would you buy it? What should I change? You might have spent weeks or even months refining your product or your service offer and getting it just right before you put it out there for the world to see. It makes you so vulnerable, doesn't it, when you put a new idea out there, because all of a sudden it's available. Not just the people who want to buy it, but it's the people that want to steal it as well. And, this idea of yours, it might have come to you one night at 2 a.m. Mine always do. And you've got up the next, or maybe you've got up the next day and you develop the product in less than 24 hours. It doesn't matter how long it's taken you, it's yours. So it doesn't matter how it came about. It came from your mind and your imagination, and therefore it belongs to you. And this is why it hurts so much to a creative person when they see their idea and their work being obviously copied by a complete stranger. It feels like they've literally just reached inside your brain and helped themselves to a piece of your imagination, doesn't it? It's total idea theft. When I think of this, actually, I always think of the BFG. When he creeps around at night in that cloak and he's hiding in the shadows and he reaches into the window and he just steals poor little Sophie from her bed. Except the copycats that we're talking about, they aren't actual genuine souls like the BFG. He's kind, isn't he, underneath all that? He's just trying to do a good deed. But these copycats, they're more like those other giants, what they called again, the child chewer, the bone cruncher. They're the ones that travel around in the day, trawling social media for ideas to steal. They're going back to their caves at night and they're chewing up these wonderful, unique ideas that someone's come up with. And then they're spitting them out again as cheap but totally recognisable imitations of the original piece that they greedily digested. And without a second thought to who they were stealing it from. And that's the annoying bit. I mean, you can obviously tell that it's happened to me. Bitter? Me? No, of course not. Well, the truth is, it's happened a few times. And if you're someone who designs, creates, or serves others with your skill, no matter what it is, the chances are that you've either come across it as well, or if you haven't, you probably will do at some point in your business journey. And it was always something that upset my mum with me. She used to say all the time, I remember her from quite early on, she used to say, "I'm sick of everyone copying you, Joanne. You've had it all your life." And she was referring to when I was at school and people used to steal my homework and copy it. Oh, God, if they'd only try that with 40-year-old me now, honestly, I'd have something to say to them. And it happened when I started Vintage Twee as well. And I came across numerous occasions when people had taken one of my unique products and they'd literally reproduced it or tried to. And they tried to make the same thing. Except it really did look like shit. Like my 4-year-old had done it. So I wasn't that bothered. But I'll give you an example. I make these rosettes. Excuse me, these really pretty rosettes for hen parties. And I make them out of vintage music paper. And they've been one of my best sellers since I started the business. And always done really well. And at the time, they were totally unique. There was nothing else like there. All the elements that made up this rosette were from my imagination. I put them all together. The way I did the lace, that featured some pearl embellishments, the ribbon on them, even down to the music sheets and the style, everything came from my brain. And they did really well. And I woke up one day, a few months later, after I'd released them, to find a photo on Google of the exact same design of my rosette, right down to the position of the lace, the font, the embellishment. So it was quite obviously a copycat case. It wasn't an accident. And then this person was also selling them at like 5p less than mine. I mean, they were bloody awful. Like, you could see the lack of workmanship, like the visible blobs of hot glue and all the stringy bits of glue dangling from the products. They're not even taking them off before they photographed it. The embellishments weren't stuck on straight. The text in the middle that said where I put bride to be, that wasn't straight either. It was shoddy. It was shoddy workmanship. And even though it did look shit and clearly wasn't a threat, it was like my first case of experiencing a copycat, and I was so upset by it and offended as well. It's a real punch in the gut to us creative types. We pour our hearts and souls into an idea that started in our brains, and we brought it to life into a real, tangible object, for it then just to be stolen and passed off as someone else's creation. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Well, not to us, it's not. It's just bloody annoying, it's insulting, and it's disrespectful. We're not talking about buying the same top here as your best friend because, they look so good in it that you also want to look like that. That's not idea theft. That's flattery. God, I love it when someone goes and buys the same clothes as me because they think I look good. I mean, I don't think it's happened to me for a while now, since most of my clothes are about 20 years old. And the actual shops that I got them from don't even exist anymore. So I'm not at risk of that. But, it's not the same. And it's most definitely not flattery, and it's not okay when somebody steals your work. So let's look at us as business owners. The ones who are designing a new product or a service. We want to make sure that we are producing an original idea or concept, and that we're not stepping on anyone's toes or disrespecting another businesswoman who's just there trying to make a living like we are. Well, it's something that scares a lot of people who work for themselves. This thought of getting into trouble because they genuinely didn't realise that there was something else out there similar to what they had just developed. Because, it's tough, isn't it? Everything seems to have been done before, like a million times over already. So even if you only have a new idea, you think, oh God, well, what's the point? Everybody else is doing it. And it's bound to share similarities to what's already there. There's only so many ways you can do something. So there are a few common challenges, including this one, that we have to navigate through during this process of trying to stay original. So there's already a lot of something, like we've said. And there might be something that you want to do, and, it's just really prevalent in your industry. So it just seems really impossible to put a different spin on the idea. And that's a huge one. Another challenge is that sometimes we develop a product or an idea that has got unintentional similarities to another because of industry trends and influencers. If you've got any children within earshot of this podcast, just like pause it and get rid of them, because I'm just going to tell you about one of my popular products, which is Letter from Santa. So it's a little warning just to get rid of them at this point. But basically, this is a really good example of this. So I make these letters from Santa, which are all personalised to the children's name, down to like their best friend, their hobbies, so it looks like Santa has written to them and, filled this letter with all this exciting information. And, it's fabulous. They absolutely love receiving them. It's one of my best sellers. Well, there are millions of them out there, and I only brought this out probably 2 or 3 years ago, and there were still loads of them in existence. I did it because I put my own spin on it. It's the sort of thing that's saturated at Christmas time. So when I developed mine, I made sure that it had lots of different elements than the other ones had. Yes, essentially it was still a letter from Santa, but I added graphics that I'd designed, wording that I had wrote and come up with myself, personalised features that no others had. Like I say, it featured their best friend's name, where they lived, their hobbies, all kinds of things. Yes, everybody was doing them, but mine were different in some aspect. One thing that I always do, whenever I'm thinking up a new idea or a new product, I tend to avoid researching it on Google before I do it. And the reason that I do this is because I don't want to get influenced from what is already out there. And I've always done it actually. Whenever I've made a new product, I've never done, I'll say not the market research, but I've never looked at what's already out there, because I just want to do it from my own imagination and see what I come up with. And it's one of my ways that I sort of keep original and stay original, because I know that then it's come from my brain and it's not been influenced by anybody else or their work. Another common challenge that we can face when we're trying to stay original is this pressure to conform to these particular styles and themes that are trending and that are out there. Because, you think everybody else is doing it. You've got to jump on the bandwagon as well so that you don't miss out. And then your stuff just looks unoriginal and like every other single one out there. And I think when we find ourselves in this position, we need to take a really deep breath and think about the importance of originality and what it means for a creative entrepreneur. We don't have to actually jump on any trends if we don't want to. In fact, we need to be setting our own trends. Originality is just so important for our identity as a brand, because it's what makes us stand out from all those others. Our style, our ideas, and our own concepts. And it actually fosters customer loyalty, because your work, it can be spotted amongst all the others easily, which is ultimately what we want. We want our own unique identity that people know and that they love, and that doesn't conform to what everyone else is doing. Don't be the sheep, be the shepherd. Lead the way and be so different that others can't copy you and get away with it. And I think that's the key. So let's talk about how we deal with copycats. This is the fun bit, okay? So as I said before, if it's happened to you, then you know that it can be quite hard to control your emotions, can't it? When you see your hard work being blatantly copied by someone else. It's like an instinct inside of us, like with your baby, you're there to protect it. Nobody is going to take it away from you or harm it. So your blood starts boiling. You instantly want to get on the computer, send them the nastiest message possible, threatening to destroy their name, so they're eventually forced to exile the country and never dare to show their face again. Or maybe that's a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean. It makes you so mad. So what do you do if you suspect that your work is being copied? Well, if you're anything like me, you'll probably type out that angry email to the culprit. You let all your emotions out, you'll get it on there. And then you read it back and you discover that really you can't possibly send it. No matter how pissed off you are, you'll end up with the police probably knocking on your door if you press send. So you delete it. Okay. And that leaves you with 3 options. 3 things that you can do to deal with these annoying copycats. Right, so the first one is confront them, but only when your anger has subsided. Now, I would recommend sleeping on it and probably doing it the next day, like when your emotions are less raw. It's like anything really, isn't it? Sometimes our reaction to an unexpected situation isn't always a helpful one, and we can just end up making the situation worse. It's like I say to my little girl, if we have an argument or something's upset her and she has a massive meltdown, I try not to talk to her about it on that day, because she just can't. She's too upset. She's past that point of being able to rationalise and talk to me. So I find if I let her sleep on it, I sleep on it, all the emotions have died down, we revisit it again the next day, and I normally get to find out what it is that has upset her. And it's much easier to resolve the situation when you're calm, as we know. So if you're going to approach the person in question, I would wait it out, wait for those emotions to die down, and maybe gather some evidence. Screenshot what you've seen. And then you can send them a little bit of a warning email. So it doesn't have to be nasty. It just has to be kind of firm. And you can say something like, it's been brought to my attention that this, say, image doesn't belong to you, or you've used this design without consent, etc., depending on what it is that they've stolen. And then I would ask them whatever it is that you want the outcome to be. So, for example, if you want them to take down the image or remove an item from their shop, rename it if they've stolen the name, or you want them to buy a commercial license to sell your design, whatever, I would ask them for that outcome. And then thirdly, I would give them the chance to respond, which, they should do if they are genuine business people and it was done by pure accident. There's one example that happened to me probably about 3 years ago now. I developed a new product. Again, didn't research it. Probably in this case, maybe I should have done. But I just thought it was a great idea. And I came up with this product that I put on Etsy. And I think it was on for about a month or so. And I get this heart-stopping email from Etsy saying there's a case of copyright infringement, one of my products. And it was a message, I think I got a message from the seller just saying, you've stolen the name. And I didn't realise that the name of what I called the product was trademarked. I thought I'd just come up with it. Thought it sounded good. But anyway, so yeah, I obviously got onto it straight away, messaged the seller back, apologised profusely, honestly, genuine mistake. And then I didn't remove the product because the idea wasn't copyrighted, it was just the name, and I just changed the name. Anyway, she was lovely. She replied to me and she just said, oh gosh, please don't worry, it's absolutely fine. We just have to keep an eye out because we've trademarked the name and we get a lot of copycat cases. So she was really lovely about it, but she could see that I was genuine, and it was an accident. And that's how it should be. So I would give them a few days, and if they respond, great. You're most likely going to get it sorted and you can move on. If they don't answer you, it's a little bit of a different story, really. It's a bit more difficult, but you can maybe send them another message, maybe try different means in case they genuinely just didn't get the message or the email. Or you could report them if you can to, say, the platform they're selling their product on, like Etsy or Facebook. If they're selling it via their own website, realistically, there's not really much you can do apart from sending more of an official or stern email, perhaps try and telephone them, stating that you'll have to use legal action if they don't remove the item in question from their website. I mean, you're probably not going to start a legal case against them, to be honest. Because let's face it, you probably have beans on toast for your tea most nights, so you can't really stretch to getting a lawyer involved. But most of the time, the mention of the words legal action, it's enough to scare them. And you'll most likely find that they'll do as they're told and they'll not take that chance that you aren't secretly Erin Brockovich on a one-woman mission to justice. Honestly, I'm not sure what you do if they don't get back to you because, or they don't back down, because they always have in my case. I can't really give any advice on that, but you just have to take it as it comes and see what happens. So the second thing you can do, so you can confront them, as we've said. The second thing you can do is you could ignore them. Do nothing. You could hope that it's an isolated incident by maybe an inexperienced person who just didn't realise that you can't actually take someone's idea and call it your own. Because believe it or not, there's some people out there that don't realise. They have no idea. It's like all these people that are creating Frozen stuff or licensed Disney products. You can't do it. It's not your name. It's not your brand. And you will get in trouble. Oh yeah, everybody else is doing it. It's fine. No, it's not fine. If you didn't think it up, it's not yours. So it depends on whether or not you can be bothered with the hassle of contacting them, how much it actually means to you, what other stresses you've got going on in your life, if it's worth the mental strain. I mean, if you're anything like me, I'm guessing that option 2 is probably not going to suffice and you're going to want to do something, even if it's not launch an all-out war on this person or a planned attack on the imposter. So that leaves you with option 3, which is a happy medium, and it's good for less confrontational people among us. And this is what I like to call becoming their frenemy. So it's becoming that person who pretends to be their friend, but in fact, you're their enemy. That's just the way it is. They've copied you, so they're not in your good books. I'm not saying lure them into a false sense of security and then plot to kill them. I'm talking about letting them know that you're watching them. It's a bit creepy, I know, but it works, trust me. So follow them on social media. Like a few of their photos, comment on them, whatever. to get their attention, just so they can see that you're sniffing around. Because if they have copied your work, deliberate or not, they're going to know your name. They're going to know your business name. And they're probably going to shit themselves when they see that you're their latest follower, or you've commented on their post. They're thinking, oh God, she's watching me. And they might just stop what they're doing. So it's a really good way of making your presence known if you don't want to, or maybe you don't feel confident enough to approach them directly. Or maybe you're just not 100% sure if they have taken too much inspiration from you and you just want to wait it out and see what else they come up with. I've done it before with a girl on Etsy who blatantly copied my cupcake toppers, one of my best sellers, right down to the actual cardstock I used, the font I used, and the wording. Like, it was identical. The only thing she did was stick a bow on the opposite side, which looked stupid. So she actually shot herself in the foot. And then she undercut me, by 5p. So again, what is it, about 5p? So it only made it more obvious that she was copying my designs and trying to compete. So what did I do? I went on the Etsy shop and I ended up favoriting her shop. And surprise, surprise, she disappeared. She probably saw, Vintage Tree favourite your shop, and then she's just gone, closed down. So just like that. It just shows you that that's what they were doing. They knew that they were copying your work and you were onto them. So let's talk about what we can do to maintain our originality then, so that we never feel the need to look to others for inspiration of what we could or should be designing or offering. But instead, we need to feel confident, don't we, that we've got our own unique style that you can nurture and develop. And therefore, you don't need to Google what everyone else is doing to get some ideas for your next product or service. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do to encourage this creativity and this originality is to do other things, like other creative things. So set time aside to enjoy some personal projects without that commercial pressure. It's like anything, isn't it? When you feel forced to do something, it just doesn't come natural. I remember when I was little and it was my birthday, my sister's birthday. And I always felt like my parents ruined the fun on my birthday by forcing me to ring around every family member to thank them for their gift. It was like, have you phoned so-and-so yet? Have you phoned whoever? No, I'm playing with my toys. I'm 7, 8, but they were so big on manners. That's something that was the first thing we had to do, was ring around and say thank you to everybody. And it's not that you aren't grateful. It's just that you were playing and you'd rather do it the next day when you don't feel pressured and you can have a natural and meaningful conversation with that person to say thank you. And I think it's the same for us creatives. If we feel a pressure to come up with something because you need to sell some stuff quickly, the bills are mounting up, you've got stuff to pay, or you want to beat your competitor and get something out there before them, we're probably not going to enjoy the process. And we're not going to reflect our true style and our originality. So we actually need to do other things, other creative projects that we aren't selling, just something that we enjoy doing, like a hobby. Because sometimes that's how new, original ideas are born. And it's really important that we flex those creative muscles regularly to keep our work unique and fresh. And, if you do decide that you want to jump on the bandwagon with a trend, just make sure it's because you actually genuinely feel like it could fit with your brand. If it does, great. Do it. And then just make sure you add your own original twist to it. It's about balancing these trends with your own authenticity, I think, and only producing something that feels like you. I've made loads of things before because I've seen that the theme is popular, but they just didn't fit with Vintage Tree. I think my biggest flop was these bloody leather keyrings that I started making. Don't ask me why on earth I started making leather keyrings, right? I'm a stationer, I do paper stuff. Because I still don't know to this day why I did it, right? And I've still got a drawer full of leather that I spent 50 quid on. And I've got about 1 billion keychain things in my office in a drawer as well. And I think I only sold one. And that was the lady who sold me the leather. It was a pity purchase. Anyway, you get my drift, right? If you're a stationer by trade like me, don't sell key rings. Unless, of course, you're good at it, which I evidently was not. So, before we finish today's episode, let's look at some actual practical things that you can do to deter the copycats and make sure that you protect your work, your hard work, your imagination, your brain, you know. Obviously, you could look into trademarking your designs. Honestly, I don't know enough about that to advise you on how to do it, how much it costs, how easy the process is. I don't think it's that easy or cheap, if I'm honest. But maybe that's another podcast episode, and I could see if I can get a legal expert on intellectual property to come in and give us, the most simple, jargon-free explanation of how it all works. Just an idea. It might be quite helpful to people. But aside from going down that route, which is going to be costly and time-consuming, there are a few other things that you can do to protect your work and your brand. So I think probably the easiest one to do, first of all, is to do some social media monitoring for copycats. Okay, so regularly checking like image heavy platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, just to keep an eye on particular people or companies. Maybe there's people that you suspect or not. But you can even follow certain hashtags related to your industry and what you do, just to give you more of a chance of like catching anything that could potentially be an attempt at copying your work and your designs. Another really useful thing you can do, you can use tools such as Google Images, and you can do something called a reverse image search. And this is basically where you can use Google to look for related images to ones that you have. Say of your products or anything like it, and you can find other images that look like that image. So when you go on Google and you open up a fresh web page, there's a little tab at the top. You can search all or you can search images. So if you click on Google Images, you'll see on the search bar there's a camera. Now you can either paste a URL into the search bar and it will look for images that are similar to what's in that image, or you can upload one from your hard drive or your mobile phone, wherever, or you can drag it into the search box. And Google will find other pictures that share similar features to yours, which can potentially identify any copycats. It's so clever. And I think number 3, one of the most effective ways to monitor for copycats, is totally free, and probably the best way really, is to have yourself a patrol of people, like followers, fans, friends, family, whoever. A solid community of people looking out for you and reporting back any untoward activity. Because, once you've got this loyal tribe behind you, it deters copycats like you wouldn't believe, and it serves you well, trust me. It actually happened to me with a colleague who spotted a photo that she took, and I had it on my website with permission because we worked together, and it was my I Do cupcake toppers again, in one of her cupcakes. So she'd taken the picture, it was beautiful. I asked her if I could use it on my website to illustrate how to use my product. She said, yep, it's fine, absolutely brilliant, go for it. Anyway, this particular photo had appeared on a greetings card in John Lewis. So she'd emailed me straight away. I don't know how she found out about it, but she'd emailed me and she'd taken the photo. And she just said that basically she was dealing with it with this person, but this particular person had stolen a photo that wasn't hers, of a product that wasn't hers, created a, albeit beautiful greeting card from it, of course. It featured my toppers on it. And then she had the cheek to stick a name on the back and pitch it to John Lewis, who obviously loved it and started stocking it in their stores up and down the country. I mean, I made sure I went back and I bought this greeting card in John Lewis before her whole operation was shut down and all the cards were recalled. Because, I think I still got it somewhere, actually. But despite the whole copyright infringement stuff, it was pretty cool seeing my work in John Lewis. So yeah, having this tribe of people out there that are looking out for you, that know your stuff, are familiar with you, it will serve you really well. Many people have got my back when it comes to my products and have messaged me and said, oh, were you aware of this? It's really, really handy. So yes, don't underestimate the power of people. All right, so let's recap what we've talked about today. We know it's a challenge to stay original, especially in the creative industry, but there are things that we can do to ensure that we maintain our originality and we keep our work unique. Copycats, unfortunately, they're an occupational hazard. It's about being one step ahead of them, making your presence known, and taking the appropriate steps, whether it's legal or ethical, to deal with them. It's important to set time aside to enjoy some personal projects to help exercise our creativity without the commercial pressure of having to design something or offer something that we're going to sell. And remember, building a community who love what you do will foster loyalty, and they will patrol for copycats for you, and they will bring anything suspicious to your attention. If you've been subjected to the curse of the copycat, or copy TWAT, as my husband referred to it when I asked him to think of a title for this episode, obviously not going with that one. But yeah, that's what he called it, and he's not wrong, to be fair. I would love to hear your stories. If it's happened to you, tell me. Leave a comment on this episode under the review section. Let me know what's happened. I'll reply to you. I'll reply to you personally. If you need advice or anything like that as well, if it's happening to you at the moment. There's loads of things that, can stop us from feeling confident when it comes to our business, but we don't want to let these copycats ruin it for us. We shouldn't be afraid of them, okay? What we're doing is our own work and we need to be proud of it. Let them live their life. Get on with whatever they want to do. We'll deal with it if we come across it. But don't let it stop you. Before I finish, also, just to let you know, I have a new website. Long story, I had to redesign the Her Handmade Hustle website because my website builder was no longer in existence. So I had to do a new one, which has been a right headache, but it's live and I'm really proud of it and I would love your thoughts. So if you can have a look for me, it's www.herhandmadehustle.co.uk. Let me know what you think, if it's easy to navigate, if you like the layout, just, if it's easy. I just need to know what you think of it. And you'll also find all of my services on there for anybody wanting some one-to-one help with their business, including the new WhatsApp support service. Go check it out. It's amazing. I'm here at the end of a text message, me, real person. If you're stuck on anything to do with your business and you need some help, it's like having your own personal business coach in your back pocket. And it's like 19 quid a month. You can have me for 1 month, you can have me for 6 months, whatever you want. I mean, I paid 19 quid last night in the pub for 2 drinks and 2 bags of crisps. It's ridiculous. So yes, please do check that out. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please rate and review this episode if you can. It really, really helps me. And I think last week I actually made it onto the Apple podcast charts. I was like a number 100 or something in entrepreneurship, which is amazing. I need to get a bit higher up. So as many reviews and ratings as you can would help me so much. Join me next week. I'll be here again next Wednesday talking about God knows what. I haven't decided yet. But I will be back to answer any questions that you have as well. If there's anything that you want to ask me, drop me a DM on my Instagram page or you can email me to herhandmadehustle@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening and I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.